On one of the front pages of the Book of Maps, I quote Albert Mackey, "There is no science so ancient as that of symbolism." Science and math is at the heart of things a system of correspondences. You use those correspondences to run calculations. It's funny, the more advanced your understanding of math and science, the more it feels like magic, but a very rational-based form of magic, where the term magic is intended to indicate how awestruck you feel at the perfection of our universe. The more advanced your understanding of magic evolves, the more methodical and, well, arguably scientific it feels. Tarot readers, especially those who read illustrated pips like the writer Wade Smith, can get into this space where they mainly, if not only, interpret signs and omens pictorially through the illustrations and imagery on the cards, or trying to draw an analogy between the story of the card with the story of someone's life. And I think that's where tarot is an art, where it remains art if you don't bring in the system of correspondences where you begin to expand the ways you read signs and omens. For tarot to become a science, you have to begin examining the cards more critically through correspondences. How does the energetic imprint of a particular key, major or minor, correspond in the realm of numbers or numerology? How about its expression astronomically, where you bring in astrology? And just like how there are multiple formulas you can use to input variables and calculate the same result, there is no one set absolute formula where when it comes to metaphysical correspondences. This is where things get kind of, I would say, complex. Your subjective reality has to be transformed into objective, observable, concrete reality, and that transformation or transmutation process is either science or magic. That's the very point of bothering with the exercise of interpreting signs and omens. In what's quite methodical and hardly psychic or intuitive, I'll establish a system of correspondences for myself, numerological, astrological, even Kabbalistic, or the I Ching, and I have for myself a sense of the significance for those differing systems. Then when a particular card comes up, I'll take what comes up as a sign and look for the same sign in one of those systems. Very simply put, a minor arcana pip card coming up with a deacon correspondence could be an omen of timing. So I'd check astrological transit charts and ephemeris tables to figure out the calendar timing correspondence for that deacon. An amazing book for that is T. Susan Chang's Tarot Correspondences. Now, as for interpreting signs and omens in tarot, the Spirit Keeper's Tarot is designed for a rather particular approach to tarot reading. I hope you can absolutely read a story out of each card and among the major arcana keys archetypes, but I also hope it's so much more than that. I hope you will consider reading the cards through a system of correspondences, any system of correspondences, layered systems of multiple correspondences, so you can see the bigger picture, the grander picture, because I believe God is revealed through the perfect harmony that correspondence systems demonstrate. Let's say I'm using my Spirit Keeper's Tarot deck to diagnose a situation I'm going through, and both the deck and I know full well I am a practitioner of the craft. Now let's say, to my inquiry on how to solve my problem, I pull the Five of Cups. Maybe you'll be able to see it better in the book. Given the relationship or bond I have forged with my deck, the signs and symbols in the deck will now reflect back my tradition. So when I pull this card seeing a solution to a problem, the star becomes a sign to me, one revealing to me that the solution is in the cycle of destruction and incorporating the cycle of destruction into whatever craft I implement to help me achieve my goal. Without veering too off topic, that's Taoist magic. We have the Wuxing 5 phases, and those 5 phases are arranged in either the circular cycle of creation or the pentagram that delineates the cycle of destruction. If that's not your tradition, when you pull the Five of Cups with your Spirit Keeper's Tarot, that's not what will be reflected back to you. Once a bond has been effectively formed between you and the deck, it will reflect back to you your own traditions. It's spirit speaking to you, giving you guidance by instructing to you on how you can use what you know to get to what you want. Not to mention, here in the Five of Cups, what's depicted is the figure having to cross a stream. Crossing the great stream is a familiar motif in the I Ching, Book of Changes, and has a particular indication to those who work with the I Ching. I call the deck Spirit Keeper's Tarot because the particularized set of signs and omens in the deck are intended to attune you to, well, spirit and specific spirits. The voice of deity, in particular deities of a specific pantheon that you're subconsciously resonating with, will come through in the readings you do with the deck, especially when you're inquiring about your spiritual path or great work. The signs and omens in Spirit Keepers is intended to connect you with any pantheon of gods and goddesses, any name or face of the Holy Spirit. It can and will work with your religious framework, because all religious frameworks are projections of the same core divinity, the soul of our universe. In almost every pantheon and tradition, each deity is associated with certain signs and symbols. The lotus or dewdrops for Kuan Yin, the owl for Athena, jackals for the Egyptian underworld god of the dead, Anubis, the sun card in this deck being the appearance of Amaterasu or Aurora, the Norse goddess Sif in the Seven of Swords, or the implication of Loki in that same card, the rogue. In terms of working with deity or deities, my ambition, my hope is that Spirit Keeper's Tarot is going to be functional and powerful for that. I admit, if you're just doing a regular everyday tarot reading to figure out current events, conceivably you should certainly be able to do a reading with Spirit Keepers, and I hope it's competent enough to take every kind of inquiry. But in terms of what it's meant for, at its full capacity, Spirit Keeper's Tarot does have a rather defined function, and that is to connect you to spirit through the signs and omens embedded into each card. It's less about keeping things open so you are open to use your imagination and creativity to its max. That's not what this deck is for. This tarot deck's primary purpose is to give you unambiguous signs and omens that you can't even deny, synchronicities you cannot ignore, you cannot misinterpret. No matter how dumb or smart you are, astute or obtuse, you cannot deny the symbolism that you're confronted with when the gods are talking to you. That's my hope for the deck. When the feather keeps on coming up that resembles a certain deity you've subconsciously already been tethered to keeps on showing up in the cards, you cannot chalk it up to intuition or creativity. It's black and white. It's there. You cannot ignore it. God or goddess is speaking to you, and it's up to you whether you want to answer. When you're doing a tarot reading with this deck, applying your acquired knowledge of either the Rider-Waite-Smith or thought system alongside your intuition, also be sure to look out for specific signs and symbols of spirit and deity. For example, key 3 is the mother goddess figure, Gloria Mundi. Gaia can come through rather strongly, I think, or any archetype of a mother goddess. When the 4 of Swords comes up, so does your guardian angel. If you pull the 10 of Wands, pay attention to the hands of spirit and meditate on what signal from divine is being sent. To me, rainbows always remind me that God is watching, heaven is watching down on us, and we must keep up our hope. If you pull the 10 of Swords, you read it as you would any other tarot deck. But then, in addition, when you're using the Spirit Keeper's Tarot, pay attention to the figure of deity delineated in the card. In the Tower card, I think who you are and what path you're on will determine which manifestation of divinity comes through when you pull the Tower. I feel like there's a lot here to work with. Me, I see Pele, that volcano in the back. The Egyptian goddess Serket is associated with the scorpion, which you see very prominently in key 13, the death card, or named here the Reaper. By the way, fun trivia, Serket is often associated with the cardinal direction west and is often depicted as a dark goddess. Shi Wangmu, or the Empress Mother of the West in Chinese and Taoist mythology, is also depicted as a powerful dark goddess, and she's associated with the West as well. I don't know, just not drawing any conclusions, just thought it was neat. By the way, you see the scorpion again here in the Four of Cups on the tree branch above the figure's head. Last one for demonstration, the Nine of Swords. What I want to say about this card, the Haunt, is although it may be delivering a message, trying to draw your attention to a shadow presence, and in a traditional reading of the card, the pattern of the Nine Swords is considered negative. Look how the Nine Swords here also form a blockade. They are, to a certain effect, also a form of divine protection while the figure in the foreground mourns. The Nine Swords also corresponds astrologically with Mars in Gemini. Now, we all connect to what correspondences reveal to us differently, and I think that is so important to bear in mind. Just because, for me, the decan rulers often indicate timing doesn't mean that's going to work for you. It depends entirely on programming and how you connect to your cards. But back to my decan correspondences, Mars in Gemini. If I pull the Nine of Swords in answer to a question, for instance, and timing is part of what I'm inquiring about, I'd pull up ephemeris tables and look for the dates that Mars enters Gemini. Today's date of recording is November 10th, 2018. So let's say I pulled this card, Nine of Swords, today and inquired about timing. Well, according to my ephemeris tables, the next time Mars enters Gemini is March 31st, 2019, and Mars stays in Gemini throughout the month of April in 2019 and through the first half of May. So then in my answer to my question, April and the first half of May are significant in terms of timing as it pertains to my question. And that's just how personally I use correspondences. So when you're reading with Spirit Keeper's Tarot, yes, it is as you would read any other tarot deck, but also in addition, pay close attention to very specific symbols that call your attention during the reading. In the card, what symbol just seems to stick to you, that just draws you in? Ponder on that symbol. What does it represent? You can even do a little bit of research. Often the divine hand will guide you to the research you need to see to know the presence of the divine.